everyone. This is a presentation on session fixation and session hijacking. To understand session fixation and session hijacking, we need to understand the following points. What is session? What is session ID? And what is cookie? Session. Session is a temporary server-side record that tracks a user's state like authentication, preferences, shopping cart, etc. across multiple HTTP requests. It let stateless HTTP behave like a continuous interaction between client and server for the duration of the user's visit. Session ID. Session ID is a unique token the server issues to identify a particular session instance. The server maps that token to the session data. Possession of the session ID lets the holder act as the session's user. Cookie. Cookie is a small piece of data the server asks the browser to store and send back with requests, often used to hold the session ID. Cookies can be configured with attributes that control scope and security. Session fixation. Session fixation lets an attacker hijack a user session by forcing the victim to authenticate using an attacker known session ID. It works when an application fails to issue a new session ID at login, letting the attacker reuse the known token to access the victim's account. As in this diagram we can see, attacker sends malicious link to the victim, gains control of the session ID of the victim, and sends the request using the session ID of the victim to the server and impersonate the user. Session hijacking. Session hijacking is when an attacker steals or creates a valid session token like cookie, URL token or header and uses it to impersonate a user. By compromising that token, the attacker gains unauthorized access to user's active session on the web server. As in this diagram we can see, attacker uses the session ID of the victim to communicate with the server and impersonate a user. Okay, for the live demo we will be solving the DOM based cookie manipulation. I have already opened the lab. This lab is vulnerable for cookie attack when we can easily manipulate the cookie. For example, if I click on view detail, we can see that in the search bar it shows, we can see in the search bar it shows the product ID 1, and if I go to home again we can see that the last view product tab has come here, which was not there in the past, and if we click on this we can see we go back to the same product we saw last time. We can also see the cookies by using the cookie editor tool. In the last view product option we can see it as product ID 1, and if we simply try to enter some random value, we can see that it gets directly injected in the cookie value, and the request is sent to the server. Now to exploit this vulnerability we have to craft a small exploit. For that we have to go to the exploit server. As the exploit server showcased that the victim is visiting the attacker controlled domain, and it is similar to the demonstrating attack like phishing attack, which leads to session fixation and session hijacking. To deliver this attack we will use an basic exploit. Okay, now when we paste the exploit we store it, and when we view the exploit we can see it opens and instantly opens the print function, and when we deliver this exploit to victim we can see that it says congratulations, your lab has solved. Impact of session fixation and session hijacking. Account takeover. Attacker uses the stolen token to act as the victim and access the account. Data breach, sensitive exposure. Attacker can read private data like profile messages, files, credentials. Privilege escalation and fraud. Attacker performs action like transaction or admin tasks if session belong to a privileged user. Regulatory and legal risks. Breaches lead to user distrust, regulatory fines, and incident response cost. Mitigation. Regenerate session ID at authentication. Always issue a fresh session ID on login and on privilege changes. Harden cookie attributes. Set HTTP only, secure, and appropriate SMAME state flag. Use short expiry for sensitive cookies. Strong tokens plus server-side validation. Use high entropy, unpredictable session IDs and validate them against server-side state. No token, only trust. Session binding and monitoring. Bind sessions to device IP or user agent when practical. Enforce re-authentication for sensitive actions and log unusual session activity. References for session fixation and session hijacking. Thank you.